I'm Ray. 29, technically unemployed, currently pretending I'm not a failure. Born in a Midwest town where people wave at your car but wouldn't notice if you never came home again. Chloe, my sister, used to call it the place where ambition comes to die, right before she left and made it out. I left too. Just took the long, stupid way back. If you're here watching it, or listening, whatever, maybe you're like me. Maybe you've walked away from something that was supposed to feel like love. If any of this feels familiar, drop a comment. Even just a period. It helps people find stories like this. Keeps them from vanishing in the noise anyway. Chloe's engagement party was the kind of thing that looked good on Instagram and felt terrible in person. Soft jazz playing in the background. Fake laughter that made your teeth hurt. Everyone drinking from those fancy plastic cups that pretend they're glass. I was the extra body near the window, half watching the snow melt into the cracks of the driveway. It had only been 2 weeks since I came back from Boston. I didn't even tell anyone I'd been living out of my car for 3 days. I just said, needed a break, like I'd taken a vacation instead of a slow collapse. Chloe didn't ask why I'd come home. Neither did Mom. They just pointed to the guest towels and told me not to use the good shampoo. I was holding a flat Coke in one hand and the cuff of my sweater in the other, just trying to make it through the evening without shaking. I hadn't eaten, partly because the shrimp smelled off, partly because I didn't want anyone asking what I was doing next. Spoiler, I had no idea Chloe was in the middle of the room, glowing in that way that made everyone think she was perfect. Hair curled just enough to look accidental. Lipstick never smudged. Her fiancé stood behind her like a shadow that also paid rent, and then she saw me. And I knew before she opened her mouth, she was going to say something. Ray, she called, holding her wine like a scepter, why are you standing there like someone died? I blinked. My mouth moved before my brain could stop it. Just watching the snow. She tilted her head, all fake concern. Well, try not to bring down the vibe, okay? It's not always about you. The room went weirdly still. Then laughter, light and forced, like everyone had been waiting for permission. Mom chuckled behind her glass. Dad raised his eyebrows. Like I'd spilled wine on the carpet. No one said anything to her. No one looked at me. I stared at my Coke. Suddenly, it was hard to hold. That's always how it goes. Chloe could say the most cutting thing with a smile, and everyone acted like she was charming. I could say nothing at all and somehow still be the problem. After the crowd left and the plastic flutes were dumped in the recycling, I stayed behind. To help clean. Not because I wanted to, because I didn't know where else to be. Mom was scrubbing a casserole dish with a little too much force. She looked over her shoulder and said, "You always wait until it's too late." What? To show up. To help. To be part of anything. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but the words just didn't come. What was I supposed to say? That I had been scraping by for months? That I was crashing in a basement because my pride couldn't afford a motel? That I'd lost something in Boston that I still couldn't name? Instead, I put the dish down and walked away before my hands started shaking again. Downstairs, the basement room was just how I left it, cold and damp. One naked light bulb humming overhead. There was no window. I don't know why that bothered me so much. Maybe because I felt like I'd been underground for months and just now realized it. I sat on the edge of the mattress, zipped up my bag, and stared at the carpet like it owed me answers. I didn't belong here. Not in this house. Not in this story. Not even in the background of Chloe's latest photo op. Speaking of, my phone buzzed. New post. Chloe's Instagram. I tapped it. There she was, glowing again. Champagne in hand, surrounded by family. Everyone smiling. I stared hard. I wasn't in the photo. I remembered that moment. I was standing near the window, holding the drink tray. I'd been in the shot originally. They'd cropped me out, not forgotten. Removed. That broke me in a way I didn't even know was possible. Not because it hurt, though it did, but because I'd been holding on to this tiny, stupid hope that maybe they just didn't know how much it all weighed on me. Turns out, they did, they just didn't care. I zipped my bag the rest of the way and put my boots on. Didn't leave a note. Didn't say goodbye. Just walked out the side door and into the cold. I could still hear laughter echoing behind me, like the house was mocking me one last time. The corner store was open. I bought a granola bar and water. Even though I wasn't hungry. I just needed something in my hands. Something to hold on to. The kid behind the counter didn't even look up when I asked if the last bus was still running. Should be. If the driver shows. I nodded, walked to the bench outside, and sat down. My backpack sat between my feet, like it was the last thing tying me to this planet. I checked my balance, $182.67. I had nothing figured out. No plan. Just one choice. Leave. When the bus finally came, I climbed on and took the seat by the window. The driver didn't ask where I was headed. No one did. I looked out at the house as the bus rolled past. Didn't wave. Didn't wait. I'd done enough waiting for one lifetime. Detroit didn't feel like a beginning. Not at first. It just felt less loud than what I left behind. Fewer expectations. Fewer people staring at me like I owed them something just for existing. It was close to midnight when I stepped off the bus. Cold air hit my face like a slap that didn't mean to be cruel, just needed me awake. I stood there for a second outside the terminal, backpack strap cutting into my shoulder, trying to figure out which way was safe, which way was stupid, and which way was just somewhere. I picked somewhere. The sidewalks were wet from whatever storm had passed earlier, and I stepped around puddles like they were landmines. I didn't know where I was going. I just kept walking until my legs started to ache, and I saw a neon sign blinking, sunset budget in, weekly rates. The inside smelled like something lemony trying real hard to cover up years of smoke and sweat. The guy at the desk didn't ask questions. Just looked me over once, then grunted, "Cash or card?" "Cash," I said and handed him most of what I had. $60 got me 3 nights. That left me with a little under $125 and a growing sense of panic. I didn't have time to unpack. "Room 2B, he mumbled, sliding me a key with peeling red paint. "No refunds. Towels are clean. Don't steal, M." I gave a weird little nod. "Cool." Upstairs, the room had that weird half-lit yellow glow, like every bulb was tired of trying. 1 bed. 1 dresser. No TV. No clock. Just the hum of the ceiling fan doing its best. I didn't even take my boots off right away. Just sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands, like they'd forgotten what they were supposed to do. I finally lay down. The mattress was hard. The pillow was thin. But for the first time in weeks, no one was yelling. No one was whispering about me in the hallway. No one was watching me, like I was ruining everything just by standing there. I didn't cry. I was too tired. But I stared at the water stain on the ceiling until I stopped thinking. The next morning, I rinsed my face in ice-cold water. The hot water knob twisted, but nothing came out except a gurgle and a sad creak. I laughed under my breath. Figures. I sat down on the floor next to the outlet, plugged in my phone, and opened up an old app one hadn't touched in forever. Upwork. I used to freelance back in college. Resumes, tutoring, proofreading college essays for people who didn't know the difference between there and there. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to get through finals week. I logged in. My profile photo was 4 years and 10 pounds ago. The bio was way too cheerful, something about helping you find your voice. I cringed, then rewrote the whole thing. Honest this time. "Hey. I'm Ray. I help you write stuff that sounds like you. I won't promise miracles, but I'll show up, and I'll care. Sometimes, that's all you need." I stared at the screen for a full minute before I hit submit. Then I closed the laptop and just sat there. What if no one hired me? What if this was just another thing I failed at? I shook the thought off. Or tried to. It clung to me anyway. That afternoon, a notification popped up. "Hi Ray, my name's Mia. I'm helping my son apply for scholarships, and we're struggling with his essay. Would you be able to help this week?" My chest tightened so fast I actually gasped. Not because it was a big deal, but because it wasn't. Someone just needed help. No judgment. No backstory. Just help. I messaged her back. "Yeah, I'm available tomorrow. Just send me the prompt and a rough draft. I'll take a look." The next day, I walked to a coffee shop a few blocks away with halfway decent Wi-Fi, ordered the cheapest thing I could, plain tea, and found a corner seat. Opened my laptop. There it was. The essay draft. It was a mess. But in that charming, trying too hard kind of way. The kid clearly had a story. He just didn't know how to tell it. I spent 3 hours cleaning it up. Rewriting, suggesting, shaping. By the end of it, I felt something I hadn't in months. Useful. She paid me $40 through the app. No fuss. No back and forth, just, "Thank you so much, you have no idea what this means to us." I stared at the notification. Not because of the money. Because someone had thanked me without strings. Because I'd made something a little easier for someone, and no one asked for anything in return. That night, I went back to my motel room and dug around my bag until I found an old receipt. I wrote on the back, +40. Mia, scholarship essay. Thursday, done. Then I folded it and tucked it in my wallet. Not for record keeping. For proof. That I was still capable of making something better. By the end of the week, 2 more messages came in. One was from a woman trying to get a promotion at her office, needed help with a personal statement. The other was from a college senior needing someone to edit her portfolio site. I said yes to both. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. Not because I was nervous. Because it felt like maybe, just maybe, I had something left to offer. Friday night. I sat cross-legged on my motel bed with a slice of gas station pizza and my laptop on my knees. The heater rattled in the corner. Outside, the wind made the power line sway and hummed out. I opened Instagram. I don't know why. Some kind of reflex. Maybe. Chloe had posted again. A boomerang of her and her fiancé clinking glasses, captioned, "Cheers to new beginnings, ring sparkles." I stared at it for too long, then I shut my phone off and tossed it across the bed. I wasn't angry. Just hollow, but for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel erased. I felt like I was starting to reappear, slowly, one sentence at a time. By the end of that second week, I had 5 active clients. It wasn't much, $25 here, $40 there, but it was the first time in months I didn't wake up feeling like a useless body. I was waking up early on purpose. Showering. Brushing my hair. Putting on chapstick, even if I wasn't seeing anyone. Just trying. I started walking to the library down on Ferry Street every morning. It wasn't fancy, there was a weird smell near the copier, and the chairs squeaked when you shifted even slightly, but they had stable Wi-Fi, and no one looked at me like I was out of place. The woman at the front desk, Miss Gloria, had this habit of saying, "Mornin', sweetheart." Like I was someone who belonged there. I'd nod back, quietly grateful, and slide into the same spot by the back window every day. One morning, while I was helping a client fix a resume that read like a ransom note, a notification popped up on my phone. "Kira L. sent you a message." On Facebook. I stared at the screen. No. Couldn't be. I hadn't spoken to Kira in almost 4 years. We'd been close once. Roommates during junior year. We used to stay up late brainstorming lesson plans and making ramen at 2 a.m., like the world outside didn't matter. And then life happened. I moved to Boston. She got engaged. We stopped talking. Not out of malice, just out of drift. I hesitated before opening it. My thumb hovered. Then, finally, I tapped. "Kira, Ray. I saw something today, and I think you should see it too. I don't know how to say this gently. Are you free to talk?" I didn't move. I didn't blink. My stomach turned over, like it was trying to escape. I typed back, "Yeah, you can call." Less than 30 seconds later, my phone rang. "Ray?" Her voice hadn't changed. Still warm. Still steady. "Okay, just don't freak out. I wouldn't bring this to you if I wasn't sure." I didn't say anything. Just waited. "Do you remember that curriculum project you built in college? The tutoring thing you turned into your own course? The one with the learning map and the weirdly cute pie charts?" I nodded. "Yeah. I still have the drafts in Google Drive." Kira went quiet for a beat. "Well, your sister's using it." I blinked. "What?" "She's running this online platform. It just launched. Called Elevate Ed. And Ray, the homepage has your exact tagline." I felt my body go cold. "What tagline?" "Learning shouldn't feel like punishment. It should feel like clarity." My heart dropped. That was mine. I'd written it in a notebook during a breakdown in the middle of junior year, right before a coffee-fueled rewrite session at 2 a.m. Chloe didn't even read my materials when I sent them to her 2 years ago. She said it was cute that I was still trying. I checked the entire site, Kira continued. "The layout, the structure, even the student progress tracker, it's all yours." Just with her name on it. "She's getting featured on some educator blogs. Everyone thinks she's this genius innovator." I stared at the library wall, my chest so tight it felt like breathing was optional. "Ray? Are you still there?" "Yeah," I whispered. I know," she said softly. "I'm so sorry." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone or punch a wall, like some movie character. I just sat there. Completely still. Like if I moved even an inch, the ground might give out. After we hung up, I walked outside, sat on the concrete steps behind the library, and pulled up the Elevate Ed site on my phone. There it was. Bright and polished. Featuring Chloe Summers, founder and chief educator. Her face stared back at me with that perfect, filtered smile. Below it, a line in sleek font, helping students succeed through understanding, not memorization. That was mine. Word for word. I'd written it in a proposal I emailed her in 2021, asking if she'd help me build it. She never replied. Now. It was her entire brand. I kept scrolling. Page after page of her work. The exact modules I'd poured months into building while broke and exhausted in my Boston apartment. The 3-level comprehension plan. The PDF breakdowns. Even the pie chart colors. It was all mine, and I was nowhere, not even a based on an idea by. Nothing, just Chloe. Smiling. Holding a pen, like she'd solved education. I walked back to the motel that night in a daze. Didn't eat. Didn't speak. Just sat on the bed and opened my laptop. I scrolled through my drive, found the original curriculum, and opened the first file. Clarity_101_day1_structure.pdf. Date created, September 14, 2020. Last modified, October 22, 2021. Author, Ray Summers. There were notes in the margins. Little ideas I'd jotted down in desperation. Quotes from kids I'd tutored. One line said, "Try to include the Mars example in science section." It made Leo laugh. I remembered Leo. 11 years old, wild imagination. I'd helped him raise his reading score by 200 points. He'd cried when he passed. His mom had hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. None of that was on the Elevate Ed site. No Leo. No Ray. Just Chloe, and a whole world pretending it was hers. I printed one page out and pinned it to the motel wall. Not because I needed it. Because I refused to let it disappear again. Later that night, I found the envelope from my grandma. I'd been carrying since I left home. I had never opened it. I just liked knowing it was there, like maybe something in the world still believed in me. I finally opened it. It was a letter. And something else. A copy of her will. I froze. In her handwriting, it said, "To Ray Summers, I leave all teaching materials, course structures, and educational work we created together. May you carry forward what we started with your whole heart." I covered my mouth with my hand and sat on the floor for a long time. My grandma saw me. Even when no one else did. I couldn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. I kept staring at that envelope from my grandma. Her handwriting. The way she wrote my name, like she meant it. Not just Ray, but Ray Summers. All soft loops. And steady ink. Like she knew I'd need proof one day that I was worth something. I sat on the motel floor until the sun started to rise, the thin curtains barely holding back the orange light spilling into the room. My eyes burned. My back ached. But something in me had shifted. I wasn't angry. Not exactly. I was done pretending I hadn't been gutted. I pulled the laptop back onto my lap, opened my old folder, the one I'd buried in a cloud drive I hadn't touched since I left Boston, and renamed it Clarity_Ray_Summers_original. That felt small, but real. Like signing your name on something you weren't ashamed of anymore. Then I did something I hadn't even let myself consider the night before. I googled intellectual property attorneys near me. Most of them looked too polished. Too expensive. Let's circle back, for my barely holding it together life. Then I found one. Eleanor Ashe, small firm. Hyde Park. Her picture wasn't glossy. She looked like someone who didn't blink when people cried in her office. I called. She answered, "Eleanor Ashe." "Hi," I said, already breathless. I think my sister stole something I made. And I have proof. I don't know what to do with it." She paused. "You're not the first person to say that today. But you might be one of the few who actually has the receipts." "I do," I said quickly. "I have timestamps, drafts, my grandmother's will." "Bring it," she said. "Tomorrow. Morning's best." I stared at my phone after we hung up. It had been years since I'd made an appointment for anything. That wasn't a free clinic or an oil change. The next morning, I packed everything, printouts, flash drive, my notebook, the will, in my old canvas tote that still smelled like rain. I wore my cleanest hoodie, tied my hair back, and caught the bus across town. Her office was small, tucked between a dry cleaner and a bodega. No elevator. Just a stairwell that creaked, like it was warning you. When I walked in, she looked up from a thick manila folder and gave me a nod. Not the fake polite kind. The kind that said, "I see you." She took her time reading everything. Didn't rush. Didn't pretend she already knew the answer. Just flipped page after page while I sat in the stiff chair across from her, picking at the corner of my nail until it bled. Finally, she took off her glasses and set the folder down. "This is solid," she said. I blinked. "Really?" She pointed to the will. "This makes it more than a copyright issue. It makes it documented intellectual inheritance." "That's a thing?" "It is now," she said. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. "I don't want money," I told her. "I don't want to sue. I just want my name back." She nodded. "We'll start with registering everything officially. Then, if needed, we notify your sister and anyone else using the content. Your choice how loud or quiet we go." I smiled faintly. "Let's start with quiet. But honest." 2 days later, I got an email. Subject, copyright registration confirmation. I printed it out and pinned it to the wall in my motel room with a thumbtack I borrowed from the front desk, right next to Grandma's will. Above it, I scribbled one word on a post-it, "Mine." That weekend, I tutored 3 students. 2 were regulars now. The third was a new referral. His mom said she'd heard about me from a post in a Facebook group called Real Educators of Detroit. I didn't even know I was in there. I made $115 that week. Enough to pay for another 4 nights and some groceries, but the part that stuck with me wasn't the money. It was a text from one of my students after we finished a session. "You made me believe I could get it. No one's ever done that before." I read it 4 times. I printed it, too, not because I needed it to remember, because I wanted it somewhere on that motel wall, between the pages and the pane, like a stitch holding it all together. That night, I lit a tea candle I found in the bottom of my bag and sat cross-legged on the bed, my back against the headboard, my hands in my lap. The quiet wasn't heavy anymore. It was full. Like maybe it was mine. I opened my laptop, pulled up Chloe's site again, and read every page, like I was building a case. Because every time I saw my words under her name, something in me got steadier. Not harder, just sharper. Clearer. I was done apologizing for existing. I drafted an email. To info@elevateed.com subject. You know what you did, Chloe. I've seen the site. I've seen the content. You didn't just take ideas. You took me. I'm not asking for anything. I'm telling you, I see you, and this time, I'm not going to disappear. Ray. I didn't expect a reply. I didn't need one. That email wasn't for her. It was for me. The internet is weird. I didn't post anything dramatic. No takedown thread. No sob story. Just one shaky selfie, no makeup, dark circles and all. Me in my hoodie, sitting on the motel bed with a wall of printed slides behind me, every lesson, every chart, every stupid typo that proved those materials were mine. My caption was short: you don't have to disappear just because someone else decided to erase you. This is my work. My name. My story. I'm not backing down. I figured maybe a few friends would see it. Maybe Kira. Maybe some old students, but by the next morning, the post had been shared over 4,000 times. People started tagging me. Messaging me. Is this the Ray from that SAT course I took last year? I thought she disappeared. She made a whole module about test anxiety. I still use it. Then came the blogs. The Reddit threads. Even a short article from some freelance writer titled, "The Sister Who Got Cropped Out and Fought Back." I laughed when I saw that headline. Not because it was funny, but because, yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. I was still broke. Still sleeping in a bed that creaked every time I rolled over. Still eating gas station granola bars for breakfast, but for the first time in years, I felt real. And then, 3 days later, they showed up. I'd just finished a tutoring session with a student who couldn't stop talking about the SAT when someone knocked on the door. 3 knocks, not rushed. Not soft. I froze, then slowly got up, walked to the door, and looked through the peephole. It was them and Chloe. My mother. My father, standing there under the motel awning, like a twisted version of a Hallmark reunion. Their coats were soaked. Chloe's mascara had smeared under her eyes. My mom clutched her purse, like it was a security blanket. My dad kept looking down at his shoes. I cracked the door open. Just enough. No one said anything right away, then my mother cleared her throat. Ray, we need to talk. I didn't move. About what? My dad stepped forward slightly. Things have gotten out of hand. Chloe looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her voice cracked. You're ruining me. I blinked slowly. No. You did that. Her lip curled. I didn't steal. I repurposed. You weren't doing anything with it. I almost laughed. But it came out more like a breath through my nose. Mom spoke up, her voice softer now. If you could just, publicly, say, you gave Chloe permission, it would help. For her reputation. And for ours. I looked at her. Really looked. She hadn't aged a day since I left. Still perfect posture, hair neat, makeup light but intentional. But her eyes, they were tired. Not from concern. From effort. From trying to contain the mess. That's all I'd ever been to them, a mess to contain. I opened the door a few inches wider, just enough to make sure they could all hear me. Family, I said, doesn't delete your face from photos. My mom looked down. Family doesn't read your birthday card and throw it away. My dad shifted. Family doesn't crop your name out of your own work, then ask you to take the blame quietly. Chloe crossed her arms. You're bitter. I smiled. Genuinely, this time. No. I'm finally honest. There was a long silence, then I stepped back and started to close the door. Wait, Mom said. What do you want from us? I paused. I don't want anything, I said quietly. I just wanted to exist. But you couldn't handle that unless it was behind someone else's spotlight. And then I closed the door, not a slam, just a soft, final click. Their footsteps faded down the hallway. I didn't go to the peephole. I didn't peek through the curtain. I just sat down on the edge of the bed, hands in my lap, heart pounding so loud it almost drowned out the silence. Almost. That night, I got an email from Eleanor to subject, approved. My copyright registration had gone through. The paperwork was finalized. My ownership was now legally recognized. I printed the confirmation and pinned it to the motel wall next to my grandma's will and the course draft with the note about Leo. Then I took a small piece of notebook paper and wrote 3 words in black ink, still standing. Loudly. I taped it just below my copyright certificate, because I was done whispering. 3 days after they knocked, a new email came in. It wasn't from Chloe. It wasn't from my parents. It wasn't even from some troll calling me bitter on Twitter. It was from a law firm in Austin. Subject, immediate action required, intellectual property dispute. The message was cold, polite in the way you know isn't real. A list of legal terms in bold, then the bottom line. They were accusing me of stealing my own work. They said I was unlawfully using curriculum materials that belonged to Elevate Ed and its founder, Chloe Summers. They demanded I take down my content, shut off my Upwork profile, delete all public claims, and sign a non-disclosure agreement. 72 hours to comply. Or they'd sue. I stared at the screen for a full 10 minutes. Not angry. Not even surprised. Just tired. So tired. I forwarded the email to Eleanor with a short note. Here it is. They finally made their move. She called me within the hour. Her voice was sharp, steady. They're panicking, she said. You don't accuse someone of theft when you're the one afraid of being exposed. Do I need to disappear again? I asked. She was quiet for a second. Then she said, not this time. The next day, I filmed a video. No script. No edits. Just me, sitting on the edge of the bed in my motel room, hoodie zipped to my chin, my wall of documents behind me. I looked straight into the webcam and said, this isn't about revenge. It's about truth. I built a curriculum over 5 years. Lessons, modules, charts, mistakes and all. I put it together while working jobs that barely paid for coffee. I used it to help kids who felt dumb believe they weren't. I sent it once, to someone I trusted. My sister. Hoping for feedback. Hoping for support. She didn't say anything. Until she posted it with her name. I pulled up screenshots. The original drafts. Timestamps. Emails. Then Chloe's website. Side by side, this is my work. This is my name. And this time, I won't let anyone erase it. I ended the video with one sentence. If you've ever had your story stolen and told back to you, like you were never in it, I see you. I hit upload. Within 12 hours, it had over 80,000 views. The comments came fast. Former students, strangers, other educators. I took Ray's course when I had no confidence. She made me believe I wasn't dumb. Why isn't her name on the damn website? As a teacher, I can tell this wasn't built by someone chasing fame. It was built by someone who cared. Someone even found an old post from Chloe's Instagram where I was tagged back in 2021, me holding up a binder that said Clarity Path in Sharpie. They reposted it with the caption, guess who the real founder is? By the next night, Elevateed's website was temporarily down. Chloe deleted half her social media. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just felt calm. Then, it came. A knock at the front desk. The motel clerk brought up an envelope. Certified. Mail inside, a check for $150,000. And a thick NDA. Basically, take the money. Stay quiet. Pretend none of this happened. I sat on the floor and read the whole thing, line by line. Legal jargon wrapped around the same message I'd been fed my whole life. You don't matter if you make things uncomfortable. I didn't cry. But I did feel something tighten in my chest, like I was watching my own erasure being offered in high-resolution ink and a 6-figure bribe. I grabbed a pair of scissors, cut the check in half, then cut it again, and again, tiny pieces scattered. Across the bed. I snapped a photo of the NDA and sent it to Eleanor. Caption, they picked the wrong person. The next morning, I posted a black and white photo of my grandmother, back when she taught 3rd grade in a tiny schoolhouse in Ohio, standing in front of a chalkboard with a piece of white chalk in her hand. My caption, you don't have to stay silent just because the person who hurt you shares your blood. I didn't post it for Chloe. I posted it for the version of me who sat on the cold floor of a gas station, trying to decide if $4 was too much to spend on crackers, the girl who thought being useful was the same as being lovable, the woman who once believed a hug would be enough to fix what was broken. That post exploded, but more than that, something in me unclenched. I didn't need to win anymore. I just needed to stop disappearing. I used some of the money I'd saved to launch a small online classroom. I named it the Clarity Room. I taught the course under my name, with my original content. I let students pay what they could. One mom mailed me $10 and a note that said, I don't have much, but I believe in what you're doing. I hung it on the wall, right next to my copyright certificate. One day, I opened my old notebook, the one where I used to scribble ideas I thought no one would ever read. On the back page was that sentence again, still standing. Loudly. I added a new line under it, and I'm not leaving. Because they tried to delete me, but this time, I wrote myself back in. Should sound